easy, and we just want that word that will just feel like yes, it's possible. It's possible is the biggest word that people need in Nigeria now. It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
The space is available. It's just the mentorship, the insights, and all of the
Mm-hmm.
things you need to know. And these are key
Mm-hmm.
things that word of experience that you have can be able to help them to do a whole lot. So
Okay.
basically, I know basically almost everybody then how.
Yeah. Hello, David. Can you hear me? The internet is not the greatest. Let me try and change networks before we start. Okay. Let me try and change networks before we start.
All right, so I didn't get what you said.
Okay. Can you hear me, David? Are you
Yes, I
are you
can hear
good?
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I can
So
hear you.
yeah, fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I said, tell us about Enyi. Tell us about he who is Enyi, and then how were you able to get up to this point?
Okay. My name is Iyoluwa Aboyeji. I am a Nigerian entrepreneur and investor. I've mostly gotten here primarily by the grace of God. I don't claim any special privileges. Um, I've had a pretty interesting run, particularly in the last 10 years, where I was working in the startup ecosystem as a founder of multiple different ventures and ultimately ending up as an investor. And I'm super excited about building the future in my own country, which I love so much, which is Nigeria.
All right, Enyi. So I observed something. Yeah, you changed your profile to servant of God. Yes. So I really know you are someone who is passionate about the things of God. And so why the change? Just tell me about it. A quick expo.
I mean, for me, I just felt like a lot of the time, people have a lot of interesting ways of identifying themselves, and since that portion of my LinkedIn profile was supposed to be a place to identify myself, I think for me, when I think about my entire life's work and I think about what I do every day, I think the one thing that really stands out is the reality that I define my identity in God, and I define my work, my life, my family, my everything that I do. It only makes sense because of God. So I look at my work as just serving for God, serving on behalf of God. Actually, I changed it more recently to Son of God, which I think is more appropriate because that's the aspiration, right? The aspiration is that you're not just serving God, but that you have that kind of relationship with God where you can call him that he's truly your father, and
Why?
you
Wow,
are
wow,
truly
that's
his son. Yeah.
interesting. So, basically, let's get back to this. You were able to co-found Andela and Flutterwave, and this went on to be unicorn. So, it's on record. You co-founded two unicorns, but people will say the Nigeria of now is different from the Nigeria of then. That is probably because of the level of hardship now. So the question is, how can someone repeat at least one of those feats in Nigeria of today?
I mean, I honestly don't really see, perhaps except in degree, of suffering, which I'm very aware of, a difference between the Nigeria of 2014 and the Nigeria of now, or the Nigeria of 2016. Um, the patterns at the time when we started our business were eerily similar. 2014, I remember that was perhaps the first year that we had started to record some declines on account of the price of oil, which we had enjoyed that was very high between 2010 to 2012. And we enjoyed that time. Hello, can you hear me? I hope you can. We had enjoyed very high oil prices, and as a result, we had a pretty stable economy. However, unfortunately, we frittered most of it away, on subsidies, where lots of people became very rich, importing fuel when we were selling crude oil at record prices, rather than perhaps investing in some of the things which we are now investing in, or we are now hoping to invest in at this time. We really ended up in a tough spot. That's just the truth. Um, and it was 2014 was the year of reckoning. That's why the government actually changed. And I remember starting Andela in that time. It was very, very difficult to start a company at that time. It wasn't easy. But God really saw us through, and we were able to start and thrive in spite of the economy. Um, 2016, I remember, was when we started Flutterwave, and we had we started and we started where TSA was basically when they asked all the banks to sort of put all the government deposits, which are 40% of bank deposits at the time, into the treasury. And the banks were suffering. And I also remember that there was a currency crisis that year as well, where the currency was somewhat destabilized and we had a big depreciation. So I know for a fact that those businesses were not easy businesses to run. They were very, very difficult businesses to run. And yet God saw us through. So I find it very difficult to believe that people cannot make it now. I think there are three things to just keep in mind if you want to build a business that's valuable over the long term. I think the first thing is you really, really, really have to care about the customer you're serving and really have a heart for them. A lot of people go into business to make money, and very quickly they're outcompeted by those whose entire heart is about building better products and services and giving the customer real value, because people are not stupid. They can see when you're for them and when you're not for them. The second thing I think a lot of people need to do is really build a great team. This is not the time to be sentimental about working with your friend, giving your younger brother a job, giving your dad now you just want world class people who are the best people to work in your startup. And the honest truth is, if you give up enough value, you don't have to pay them. This is a big misconception. This idea that the only way to attract world class people is to pay them money up front. World class people know that they can never be paid enough money up front. Someone like me, if you walked up to me and said you wanted to hire me, I'll ask you, you know, do you have $10 million in cash every year? Because that's what my compensation amounts to. And of course most people don't. So I'll say, well, I can't I can't work for you full time. I'll have to, I can work for you for equity, which grows in value over time. I can work for you for other things, but I can't work for you, um, you know, just like that. I can't work for you as an employee if you can't pay
Wow.
me $10 million a year, because that's what my equity amounted to every year that I worked for the last 7 8 years. Um, the last thing I would say is that you really have to really have a mind that is very, very focused on value. A lot of people are focused on appearances. A lot of people increase their cost of living unnecessarily. They want to look rich, not actually be rich. So if you're that kind of person, you will make it very far. If you're the kind of person that's very carried away by appearances, you won't make it very far. If you focus on value, people can call you all sorts, but at the end of the day, when they need somebody who can actually get the job done, they know who to call.
Okay, so I observed that you're a fan of the fact that $1 million business is a business that is making $1 million in revenue, and so that's a tough call. So the question is, how can a company scale to be a $1 million business in this current economy now? What are the things you can say
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah. There are a number of ways. The tried and true way is obviously to either work with larger companies who make billions of dollars in revenue or hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue as a partner, or sell to companies that make hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, right?
Oh,
That's the tried and true way. But that's not easy. But I think that's the way I understand, right? For us, that was how we got to millions of dollars. The way, the other ways to do it are pretty treacherous. They're not easy, and many people don't have the patience to do it. So, so that's a problem. But I think that if you focus on B2B or B2B to C relationships, and you listen very carefully and you work very intently with one customer type or profile, you're going to easily see the kind of scale that will put you to millions of dollars without spending a lot of money on customer acquisition.
okay. So you're always talking about the fact that a business is supposed to create a good relationship with the government or government stakeholders. So now, how should business starting up kind of create that relationship that we make sure that business keep running effectively? You use Move as an example, and just tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, government needs a lot of help. Government doesn't really know how things work in the private sector or in the real world many times, and they need help, but they need help that comes respectful, that is not self-assured, that also wants to learn from them about how things get done at scale. Without that, you really can't get to scale with government. So with most of my companies, I've had to play significant roles in engaging the policy space and trying to help them make rules that make sense for us. I don't do what many Nigerian founders do, where they just go and hide and hope that rules never come, because they always will. If you're doing well, you're scaling. People want to know what's in it for government, what's in it for them. So rather than wait for them to come to me, I found it to be more useful, even though it's counterintuitive, to actually go to them and ask them, what's the regulation for my space? How can I be regulated? How can I be able to get to scale? Because most investors who are serious investors will not invest in you unless they know that there's that level of certainty around policy, right? Most great investors will not bother engaging you. Most customers, most large customers, they won't engage you ad hoc, because these people have, if you make hundreds of millions of dollars, you can't hide from government. You have serious obligations, you have serious customers, you're probably publicly listed somewhere in the world, right? So you can't run like on an RNG. If you get what I mean, you have to run on pure
Yes, I
systems and
understand.
platforms. So we leverage that to our advantage, right? By leveraging, by being in those conversations, so that the rules make sense for us, and then we operate within those rules, right? And try and be the best at operating within those rules. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay, personally for you, how were you able to build your own relationship personally for you? Can you tell us about
Um,
maybe when you were building Andela and the Flutterwave?
yeah, I got a lot of advice leaders. Um, I went to public forums myself. I spent a lot of time writing about the challenges with government policy, engaging government like I still do today about the issues with government with policy. So it's you painstakingly build a reputation to be the kind of person that policy people can trust for feedback about what they should do next.
Oh, wonderful. Great. So let me ask this question. This might be a little bit controversial now. So
Tell
you are
me.
a Christian. Yeah, you're a Christian, a very strong Christian, and we all know that. Everybody knows that. So for the young, upcoming, entrepreneurs. What do you have to say about their faith, um, the business, and tithing?
And tithing.
Yes, tithing,
Um,
tithing, tithing.
well, look, I mean, ultimately, your giving is between you and God, right? But the way I look at it is what I have seen in my own career is that um, God God is very faithful um, in terms of rewarding those who commit to Him in giving and supporting His work. I don't. I'm actually in a place in my relationship with God where I don't tithe anymore. I do more than tithing. I'm trying to get to the point where I can give away 95% of my income. That's my goal, if not 100%. So
How do
my
you
point of
how do
view
you
is,
explain this to your investors?
well, I'm not giving the company's money away. I'm only giving my money away.
Oh, right. You
So I
see, that,
don't
that's the
tithe.
that's the point we need to face. Okay, good, 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 good,
Yeah,
good.
but you should never tithe your company's money except you
Obviously.
own the company yourself, right? Or except your investors agree to it. You can only tithe your income. To do otherwise is stealing to give God, which I actually think is even a worse crime than than not giving God anything, because He really doesn't need it. I'm talking about my own personal income, so I don't
Yeah,
have
so
to
that's the
steal from my
relationship you have with
investors.
God.
Yeah,
Oh, wonderful.
absolutely.
I love the way you clear that out. That's great. So I think a lot of people need to understand the fact that you give out of your own personal
Well,
seed,
well,
not. Yeah.
even generally speaking, I mean, the reality is the company's money is not your money. You can't give the
Yeah.
company's money away. I mean, if people don't
Yeah.
know that, that's a bigger problem, in my opinion, than thinking you give God your person. You are robbing your company if you don't have a distinction between your finances and the company's finances. You're quite literally robbing your company, right? And so there has to be, there has to be
So on that note, company's money is not your money. I
no.
think a lot of young founders need to understand this. I want to enlighten us about the fact that companies that raise a lot of money, maybe they raise like $10 million, and within a couple of 2 3 years, they fold up. So what do you want to say? Or some people walk away. What do you want to say about that?
Well, I mean, I don't know what causes that, but I do think that I've said it before that founders who failure is not bad. Failure is part of the assignment when it comes to startups. The high failure rate. Everybody who invests in startups should know that. But I think where things become tragic is when people fail and they don't do the work to keep their integrity intact, by sharing with the community why they failed, um, by um, by engaging and thinking through why they failed, right? Reflecting on why they failed and what they should have done, by doing the high integrity thing and returning money to investors as soon as they are aware and sure that the business is not going to end up returning capital. So there's a lot of things that people need to do high integrity. Walking away on your investors is not high integrity; it's very low integrity. So people are going to remember that for a very long time, and that I think that's what many founders don't fully realize yet. People are going to remember how you walked away, and yeah, if you want to walk away, that's awesome. But how you do it matters more than whether or not you fail.
Okay, you're doing a lot of work at Accelerate Africa. Yeah, so you are doing great work. And I want you to just explain a little bit about what the future holds for, because I've seen some of your articles where you said the fact that you are hoping on the fact that a $1 billion company is going to come from Nigeria, but maybe not a Nigerian because of the enormous challenges of the economic. Maybe the mindset is way down by some of the challenges. And I was trying to say, I'm going to ask you about that question. Like, why do you feel maybe not a Nigerian?
Well, I think it really depends on whether our young people are ready to be productive, right? I find that many young people, young Nigerians in Nigeria, just haven't yet grasped the changing landscape of productivity, and there's a lot more they can learn in terms of just, even when they have the resources, setting themselves up for productivity, right? Or when they don't have the resources, tooling up so they can be more productive, right? Um, or even sometimes just the mindset that productivity requires, which is that you really do have it need to have a can-do mindset, right? A mindset that is like, how can I do this at the least possible cost? How do I think about return on investment? I think a lot of people in Nigeria are very process driven rather than productivity driven. And so that's going to harm their ability to build billion-dollar ideas.
All right, yeah, good. So, but what do you feel is the solution to this now? Is there any solution, or would they have to
Well,
travel
I
out of
think I
Nigeria
think a lot
to
of I
clear
think a
their
lot
head?
of people have to question. I think a lot of Nigerians in Nigeria who claim they are senior talent have to question whether they know what they know, whether they would survive in an extremely productive environment, and they need to be ready to humble themselves and learn. Um, that's what I think, but that's an unpopular point of view.
All right. So I know you have a lot of close relationship with some of this government. Like I know Mr. Bosun, Tijani, and some of these people. You are quite close to them. Do you in any way sometimes chip in the fact that hey, these guys are really at the, or do they know it, or they just assume they know everything that is going on?
I mean, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm as close. Also, say that somebody for 18 years or 30 I got back to Nigeria. But I wouldn't say I'm necessarily close to a lot of these guys. And honestly, my relationship with them is, I mean, there is a personal and there's a professional side, and I keep a very long rope between the two. Um, I think help my minister happens to be a mentor and dear. Yes, I will my 2 cents whenever it is requested. But I don't necessarily go out of my way to advise government officials. That's not my job description, except when it concerns one of my businesses or my industry.
All right, great. So I believe you are someone with a whole lot of influence. I've seen the article where you wrote about the fact that it's high time that Nigeria releases these Binance guys, and I think the news I heard today was they've been released. I don't know if you've heard that too.
Yeah, I
Like
have
they
heard that.
released,
Yeah,
yeah, released.
yeah.
So can you talk about some of these policies and how it might affect the investment or in potential investors coming into Nigeria in the next future?
Well, I mean, I don't think it should affect them. I mean, definitely, I can see the reason for fear or trepidation, but like I keep telling people, you have to recognize that Binance broke the law. Binance was involved in money laundering. Binance was not carrying AML in Nigeria. Binance was selling Naira pairs without permission in violation of our Foreign Currency Act. Binance was funding terrorists. Binance was doing a lot of very bad stuff in Nigeria and around the world, as we've seen. So the reality is that somebody deserved to be curtailed for it. I do think that unfortunately Mr. Gilbert got caught up in that mess, and it's unfortunate. But I'm glad that at the very least the man has has been given his freedom, because that's extremely important as well. So I don't think you should stop investment. Those who would invest in Nigeria would invest in spite of that, especially because they don't intend to break the law.
All right. So one quick question, the last question for the day. Now is you are obviously the co-founder of Future Africa, and so I want to ask this question: do you fund crypto companies also, or is
No,
out of your portfolio?
out of my portfolio. Until we have a digital asset regulation that is fully understood and accepted by all parties involved, we sort of stayed away from crypto. Um, in the broadest sense.
All right. So thank you so much, Inyi, for this
You're
wonderful
welcome.
enlightenment. We're so glad. and to have you and say a big thank you for this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I'm ending this right. You could just wait a little bit so it will just save up. I think it's uploading. I'll just end this and you should upload in a couple of few minutes from now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.